Hello, everybody. How are y'all doing? It is just after 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. Um, I'm sitting in my car. Um, this is going to be kind of a little mini life update. I know that I owe you guys one from like a few years ago. I was just going through my video history, and I think the last time that I gave you guys any type of life update was back in 2024, just after I got hired on with Link Services, or under their parent company of Solera. And a lot has happened since. I know in that video I was sitting in a 2017 Chrysler Pacifica that we had just bought, and I was holding up a rental application for a house. Well, a lot has happened since then. Let me see if I can give you a brief rundown of what exactly has happened. So that application that I held up, we did fill it out. We did get the house. We were in the house for a year. And in October of 24, my husband lost his job at Link Services because of his health took a serious decline. He ended up developing multiple cases of cellulitis, which is a severe skin infection. And as a type 2 diabetic, if he were to contract cellulitis, it does put him in the hospital. So because he was having issues with his health, they decided to terminate him. I remained at the company until January of 25, actually a little bit after January of 25. So I actually made it with the company a full year. And then I finally, after graduating from Ultimate Medical Academy on October 23rd, 2023, with an associate's degree as a medical administrative assistant, and applying for numerous positions and going on numerous interviews with numerous companies and not hearing anything, therefore having to take the job with Solera, I ended up going on Indeed and ZipRecruiter and just filling out any type of application that would get my foot in the door with that type of work. I ended up getting hired on with an ambulance billing company, just down the street from the Link Services, so not too far from where I was working. It was right down the street. And I was loving it. I was there from January of 2025 till April, and the only reason I left that company is because, due to unforeseen circumstances, namely because my husband lost his job and we were down to one income for so long, we couldn't afford to continue to pay the rent and all the utilities with the trailer. So we ended up getting evicted from the trailer. And for a few weeks, we were staying with my mother-in-law and my brother-in-law and my mother-in-law's boyfriend back in Katawa. In fact, I remember posting a video, or recording a video, not posting it, but recording a video explaining that due to my husband's inability to find a different job down in Kentucky, we were essentially forced to move to South Carolina. But that in South Carolina, I had a friend who needed some help. Well, let's be real here. My husband's mother, my mother-in-law, and her boyfriend were the ones that approached me and him and I with the idea of, hey, why don't you move down to South Carolina and help out this friend? Well, that's what we did. we, in April of 2000 and mid-April of 2025, shortly after I had gotten paid from that job, loaded up the car, had the bulk of our stuff in a storage unit, loaded up the car, and came down to South Carolina. Now, it wasn't just me and my husband and our daughter, it was also our 3 cats, because when we moved into the trailer, we only had 2. Well, during a Spark run, which, if you don't know what Spark is the store to house delivery system that Walmart has, and they kind of it's like DoorDash but for groceries. So during a Spark run, we ended up rescuing this little tortoise shell kitten that we named Starry. Literally watched this little itty bitty cat dodge multiple trucks because she's blind, she can't see. So it was myself, my husband, our daughter, and 3 cats, moving 9 hours away from Catawba, Kentucky to Newberry, South Carolina. Now, we've been down here since April. In that time, my husband and I, and I'll explain the car situation in a minute. In that time, my husband and I lost the Chrysler Pacifica, as in we weren't even down here a month, and the car was repossessed. They literally came down here and took the car. My husband and I, and this shitty part about this is that right before the car was repossessed, my husband got hired on by Amazon as one of their drivers. I was working, I had gotten hired on at Family Dollar, and by my second shift there, the manager had asked me if I wanted to move up to assistant management, because she liked the fact that I knew my way around the POS system, or the point of sale system, basically how to operate the register. I knew where things went in the store. I knew how to check an ID for people that wanted to buy cigarettes or tobacco or liquor if it wasn't a Sunday, because where we're at now, it is a dry county, which means that no alcohol can be sold on Sundays. Yeah. But the thing with that is, she didn't want to properly train me there was no, oh, you're assistant manager. So literally what she did, she gave me 1 day of shadowing / hands-on training on how to be a manager. And basically what that entailed was, managers have to not only count the cash at the end of the night, they have to lock up the store, they have to go into the safe to get cash for a register if a CSR calls for cash. She, barely trained me on how to, in fact, the handbook on how to be a manager, a closing manager of all things, was handwritten on sheets of computer paper and stapled together. Yep. And my first night there doing this by myself, they claim, or the store manager claims, that I didn't lock the doors. I know I locked those doors because I pulled on them to make sure that they would not open. I locked them. I know for a fact I locked them. The money was in the safe at the end of the night. The deposit slip was in the safe at the end of the night. The alarm was set and the doors were locked, and I went home. Well, that next morning, I get a text in the group text between myself, the manager that hired me, and the other manager that works there. And she's like, why were the doors not locked? I said the doors were locked. My husband can attest to the fact that he watched me lock and pull on those doors to make sure they would not open. So I don't know. But so I quit because I wasn't about to basically take on a job where they're not going to pay you. Not only were they not going to train you, rather, but that you weren't going to get a pay increase for doing above and beyond what you were initially hired to do. I then was looking for something that I could go back into like CSR type mode like I had been doing at Lynx, and I found something, and I got hired on there. Now, what they had hired me for was FNOL. FNOL stands for First Notice of Loss. This is where when people have an auto accident that is a total loss, or something happens to the home, a flood, a fire, hurricane, blah, 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 whatever, or God forbid there is a loss of life. Those are the types of claims that I would have been taking. But they, again, didn't want to give proper training. All the training that I was getting was happening on the floor where there were live calls happening around. It wasn't like Lynx at all where you were put in a separate classroom for 2 weeks and you were trained all this person did was train the new hires. No, that wasn't like that at all. There was no period of nesting where you had somebody giving you guidance. Nothing of the sort. So I quit that. In fact, when I quit, I didn't even give back my key fob, which let me into the building. I still have that in my purse. I'm not worried about it because they deactivate those. So even if I tried to go back to the building, I wouldn't be able to get in. So then I started working as, okay, so a little bit of backstory, and this is going to be, if you've never been in the situation, it's going to seem weird. It's going to seem really fucking weird. So the friend that I keep referring to, and I'm not going to mention her name, I've known this woman for 15 years. The friend is my husband's ex-girlfriend. Ex-fiance, if you will. Now, mind you, my husband and I have been married for 15 years. And when myself and the ex-fiance met, she was married. She had been married for a year to her ex-husband, and she was pregnant with their child. While Willie and I had just gotten married, and I was pregnant with Kaylee. Now, mind you, okay, I've been friends with this lady through a lot of it. Through a health crisis that almost killed her. I was the one she texted when her now ex-husband served her with divorce papers, or had her served with divorce papers. I remember her texting me pictures of each page of the divorce documentation. I don't have those anymore because they were on my other phone, but she did text those to me. So when the idea was thrown out that, hey, why don't you guys move down to South Carolina and help her out? Maybe things will be better. We thought, okay, maybe things will be better. Now, I started acting as an in-home caregiver for the friend because she has some health challenges, namely that of neuromuscular. I'm not going to go into the specific diagnoses, but she does have more challenges than I do, and she's on a whole slew of medication. Part of what I do as her in-home caregiver is I help with medication management, meaning that I'm just trying to see what time it is. Meaning that at a certain point in the day, I will sit down with her pill box and all of her medications, and I will set up her medications for that evening and the next morning, because that's how she likes to do it. She only likes to set up her pills one day at a time, even though her pill box is a Sunday through Saturday pill box. Morning and evening, where she could get away with setting up a full week's worth of medication 2 days in a row, or a full week's worth of medication twice a day. But so I set those up for her. I also, because she is neurologically impaired, to the point where, due to the type of injury that she sustained, she doesn't understand and doesn't quite comprehend how exactly to do an e-check-in for a medical appointment. So I walk her through how to complete that. Now she does know how to set up transportation to these appointments. Thank the good Lord. Again, that was also my idea, because before I introduced her to that, she was relying on her mom, which I'll go into her in another minute, to get to and from appointments. Not something she liked to do, because her mom had a history of going and posting the information that was given out at the medical appointment on social media, completely disregarding her daughter's right to medical privacy. So she kind of asked me to step in and be the in-home caregiver and help her manage medication, help her learn how to set up schedule appointments, help her learn how to do e-check-ins, things of that sort. And then we things have been coming to a head, and it's because before we came down in April, she'd been on her own for 6.5, almost 7 years. And so, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just I keep hearing something hit. I'm sitting in the car under the carport, and I keep hearing something hit the metal, and I think it's a bug. If not a bug, a really small bird, but she'd been on her own for 7 years, and then all of a sudden she's got a family of 3 thrust upon her. That was not our decision. I didn't want to do that. I wanted so hard to find an extended stay type situation in Kentucky that would have allowed me to continue working at a job that I loved, but that isn't what happened. Now, the car that I'm sitting in, the ex-girlfriend's, the friend of 15 years, her mother helped us get the car. Now, when I say helped us get the car, I mean not only did she help locate, but she financially funded the car. Now, although she financially funded the car, as in meaning she gave us the money for the car, her name is nowhere on the title. So there's that. Now, because the friend of 15 years got divorced right at, or was separated from her husband right at the peak of COVID, and the husband decided to take the daughter, their daughter with, who at the time she was only 9 years old. God, can you believe that my daughter was 9 years old when COVID started? Yeah. At the time, her daughter was only 9 years old. She's not seen her daughter physically in the same room face to face. I can, reach out and touch, in 6 years. 6 years. When we first got down here in April, both girls were 14 years old. Her daughter is 3 months to the day older than Kaylee. So her daughter made the big mistake of telling her mother, yeah, when I turn 15, I'm going to get my permit. Okay, in the state of South Carolina, at the age of 15, you are allowed to get your learner's permit. And she was telling her mom that, yeah, and in December I'm going to come see you. So then all of a sudden it became, you guys have to be out by December. Okay. Well, last night things came to an even bigger head. Last night, she came out of her room and was like, you guys have until November 1st to be out. So here it is, September 18th, I think. September 18th or 19th? 19th. Because Kaylee was supposed to have a doctor's appointment today, but I didn't realize they were going to show up for pickup at like 6:45 in the morning, and the appointment was scheduled for 9:10. So I rescheduled the appointment for the 29th of September, and it's at a later time in the afternoon, because I'm sorry, I had just barely woken up for the day and was getting dressed, and all of a sudden I hear a honk, because medical transportation was here to take us to a doctor's appointment. Like, I had just woken Kaylee up, and I was like, I need you to get dressed real quick so I can give you your meds so we can get ready to go to this doctor's appointment. And as I'm getting dressed is when they show up. So my husband ripped them a new ass because, first of all, these people do not this company doesn't text a reminder like the day before. Oh, by the way, your ride is expected to arrive at your location by XYZ for your appointment. They just show up and they honk. Yeah. So, there's that. In fact, last night was the first night since the first full night since May that my husband and I slept in the same bed all night long. I will be quite honest that since being down here, okay, y'all know I talk about this a lot. Y'all know my husband is a bigger guy. Since being down here, his ex-girlfriend and I have been sharing a bed. There was only one other time before last night that my husband and I were in the same bed. Actually, two. One of those other times would have been like the second night that we were here, and I was like, I want to sleep in the bed with my husband. And the second time, and she's not on YouTube, so she doesn't know. She won't find out about this. But the other time that he and I were in the same bed together, and we weren't even sleeping. It was the night of our 15th wedding anniversary. We chose to be intimate. She had gone out of town, out of state to visit family. And at this point, the car is freshly repoed. Like, the car got repossessed the Friday, the 2 days before she was set to go out of town. So the car is freshly repoed. We can't go anywhere. We're stuck with no way to get anywhere. No way to get anything if we need it. And she's out of town visiting family out of state. Right now we're at the point where tomorrow Willie and I are calling my mom and my stepdad who live in Woodstock and are going to talk about possibly moving back in with them for a while because our 15-year-old daughter, her mental state since we've been down here is not good. Her grades at school are the best I've ever seen in a long time, but her mental state is not good. Last night she said something to her dad and I that I do not ever want to hear again. And I'm afraid that if we stay down here in South Carolina, her mental state may decline even further. And it's just not good. And I can't live somewhere where somebody who's supposed to be your friend of 15 years literally tells you all day, every day that she can't take it anymore, that she can't do this anymore, that she can't do that anymore, that she didn't sign up for this. I understand you haven't gotten the chance to be a mother to your own child in 6 years. But don't negate the fact that my child is going through shit. And I, as her mother, and he, as her father, are doing their best to help her. And you basically throwing a little temper tantrum anytime that she's ill is not helping. Last night, as I was packing up our clothes, or the stuff that was not in the dresser, because I still have a full dresser full of stuff I have to pack up. I still have stuff in the bathroom that I have to pack. I still have clothes hanging in her closet that I have to pack. I have a TV that I have to get out of her closet. I have paperwork that I have to get out of her filing cabinet. Like our birth certificates and our marriage license and things like that I have to get out of her filing cabinet. And we have to pack. We have to find a way to get a litter box, and I have to find a way to get some food and a water dish for our cats. And I have to put all 3 of our cats back in the car. Yeah, that's going to be fun. But we have until November 1st. Here it is, September 19th. Literally a month and a half, and we have to be out of here. And my husband and I have already discussed, once we leave, we're not coming back. We may come back to visit, but it'll be a hot while before that happens because of the such hostile animosity that we've experienced since being down here. You don't get to call somebody a squatter when you could have said, no, you can't come down here, but you said, sure, come down. You're getting $300 a month in rent from me out of my SSI. You're getting transportation to and from the pharmacy when you need to pick up medication. You're getting your meals, like actual legitimate meals, not frozen processed shit, are getting prepared for you every night. You're getting help with medication management. You're getting help with keeping the house clean. You're getting help with things that, you know, things you should have been properly taught how to do before you were set loose in your own house, essentially. And now your own selfishness and your own I can't take it are basically forcing a family of 3 out. When if the shoe were on the other foot and you needed somewhere to go, we would take you in and say, you're home. Stay as long as you need. We're not kicking you out. You don't have to help us do anything. We've got you. You're welcome. Your daughter is welcome. Your animals are welcome. That's not how a friend of 15 years acts. That's not how somebody who claims to be a Jehovah's Witness acts. And it's funny that as I record this, the friend of 15 years is sending me stuff via Facebook Messenger. So I don't know when the next time I'll be able to hop on and record is. I don't know where my husband and I will be, or where my husband, my daughter, and I will be the next time I record. Just know that when I do hop on and record again, it is going to be a long update, and I may even, depending on how raw the feelings still are about the situation, I may go into more detail about who this friend is, the issues that she's got going on, things of that nature. But until then, I don't know. So, see ya.